On behalf of the Office of the State Superintendent of Education and the University of the District of Columbia, we welcome you to this first of 6 one-hour sessions that comprise the Spring 2022 Mini Professional Development Institute on the building blocks for education, training, and workforce providers, strengthening the college and career readiness aspects of your program. We also extend warm greetings to our presenters today, Danny Schrerer and Kathleen O'Connell from the National College Transition Network at World Education. We thank you in advance for sharing your expertise with DC providers and partners. The session this morning is part 1 of 2 on exploring personal and workplace success skills and resources. We invite you to participate in part 2 at 2 this afternoon. Okay, so see us back here. Though not required, you will get more out of part 2 if you have attended part 1. As you heard earlier, we will be recording these sessions, so please keep your cameras off and your microphones muted until necessary to unmute. We also will be posting the video and handouts on the OSCE website at osce.dc.gov. Also know that we will be holding another Mini Professional Development Institute in a few weeks. That's on June 6th, 7th, and 8th. And the topic for that one will be student persistence. We now hand you over to the co-presenters.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bruce. Welcome, everybody. It's wonderful to sort of quote unquote be in Washington, DC with all of you. So today, to get us started, we'd love to just hear a little bit more about you. So if you could put your name and your program in the chat and then answer, we have just sort of a fun question for you this morning to get you started. What color do you feel today and why? So I thought I might model that. And for myself, I'm feeling kind of pink. I mean, I guess I'm wearing a little bit of pink, but also spring has sprung finally up here in Boston. And so that's making me feel pink. Danny, do we have any responses in the chat?
Thank you so much, Troy, for introducing yourself. And if other people want to say hi and tell us your program that you're coming from and what color you are, and if you want to say why, you can say why. So I'm Danny Scherer, and I'm coming to you from World Education. I cannot help but pick green, just because it's kind of shockingly, it's staring me in the face, but also it's Monday, and it's an optimistic Monday for me. So I'm going to choose green as a sign of new life and new growth. So thank you for adding yours. Welcome, Janine. So nice to see you. Janine, so nice to see you. And Troy is blue because it matches my plaid pants. Thank you, Troy. See, we're getting to know each other even though we're not in the same room. So I know that Troy is wearing plaid pants now. And Tara is peony pink because spring. Latricia is orange because it's bright in the beginning of a new week. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And Janine is blue because her favorite color is blue. My dress is blue too. And Beth is yellow because it's so sunny today. Thank you. This is kind of fun. So you can continue to add to the chat as we move to the next slide to introduce yourself. So please go ahead. Thank you, Vera. Bright orange. I'm feeling excited. Wow, this is great. And the information to be learned by participating in this webinar. Welcome, Ellen. So keep introducing yourselves and we'll move on. So as I said, I'm Danny Scherer, Curriculum and PD Specialist at World Education and the National College Transition Network. I do professional development and technical assistance for the state of Massachusetts. And I was part of, with Kathleen and another colleague, Sandy Goodman, creating this library, this free resource that we're going to be talking to you about this morning. We've been really the 3 core people in developing this resource. that we're excited to share with you. And prior to this, I taught ESOL and ABE and worked as a coach and counselor in adult education for 12 years. Kathleen?
Yeah, I guess I neglected to say my name. I'm Kathleen O'Connell, and I am a project coordinator at World Education. I was working on the English Now project, which we had a program in Washington, D.C. work with us on that. And I've done a lot, and I came into World Education as the workplace education coordinator. So I have been a teacher and a coordinator, and have led many workplace education programs in the state of Massachusetts. And as Danny said, I've been working on this library now for the past year. And yeah, it's really great. And we're very excited to show it to you today.
Just a word about the National College Transition Network. We are a center of expertise at World Education, and we provide technical assistance and PD to community college, adult education, and workforce development systems. And we understand that we have people from those 3 different areas with us today. So we work with responding to all the needs at the intersection of those 3 systems.
So today our objectives for this workshop are to, 1, understand personal workplace success skills. PWSS is how we kind of call them in a easier form. And we're also going to navigate the PWSS library to identify resources that may interest you. So we're hoping that today, ideally, that you walk away from this session with a greater understanding of the vast resources available to you out there, and an interest in finding a resource to use or add to your program to fill your needs. And if you do want to take that next step to find something, we hope you will join us this afternoon. In the agenda today, first we will get grounded in the skills we're talking about and why they are important. Then I will give you a comprehensive tour of the library and some of the resources. And then you will do an activity on your own to learn how to navigate the library and truly understand what is in there. And then we will kind of come back together and debrief from that. Today, in terms of the tech features we will be using, there will be times when we will invite you to unmute. We love to hear voices. And then, as I said, you'll be going off on your own and doing an activity. And then there's times when if you have the Teams reaction features available to you, which is like thumbs up we hear, or hearts and so forth, we'd love you to use those. If you don't, I think there's a raise hand that you can use. So we will be using those as well. So to get on to personal and workplace success skills and why we call them by those names, this is not a blank slide. So we've chosen the term personal and workplace success skills for a cluster of skills that are referred to by many names. Maybe some of you would like to enter some of the names you've used or heard of in the past. So soft skills, which we're trying to move on from that. Employability skills is another term. And let's see, foundational skills. So we've chosen personal and workplace success skills because in our field, while we focus on these skills in the workplace, they're also skills that are central to personal growth, lifelong learning, community engagement, and so forth. So let's see, Danny, is anyone entering some names in the chat there? Some other names by what they call these skills?
I don't see any yet, but I'm thinking, sometimes people say 21st century skills. I've heard that before.
There it is.
There it is.
Power skills, that's a new one for me. Work ethic, non-cognitive skills, human skills. Okay, great. Social emotional learning, last one. Okay, so Danny is going to talk to you about why these skills are important.
Yeah, so you see there's many ways to refer to these skills. And I also think it's important just to note that we've added personal as well. So personal and workplace, oftentimes in our line of work, we focus on the workplace skills, but it's important to remember that there's personal, community, family, civic life that's also implicated in the attainment of these skills. But we wanted to kind of make 2 points about these skills. In our work, it oftentimes feels really overwhelming to even achieve some of the basic goals that we have with our students and clients. And you might resonate with that statement, trying to get a high school equivalency, trying to get them a job with their very limited time often and pressing demands. Thinking about teaching a whole new set of skills can feel overwhelming. So why is this so important? So we've added 2 quotes here to point to why this is so essential to focus on. And the first one talks about preparing students and clients for the future of the workforce. So this says, we have been teaching people in the wrong way. What we should be teaching people is to be more like humans and less like machines. So this points to the increased automation of the workforce in all different sectors, right? So we want our students and clients to have the competitive advantage that everybody else will have when they're navigating the current and future labor market. And then the second quote here, it mentions non-cognitive skills. So we talked about all the different ways to refer to these skills, and many of those, social emotional learning, emotional intelligence, self-awareness, are often called non-cognitive skills. And it turns out that these are just as accurate predictors of labor market outcomes as those hard skills or educational attainment. So, for example, one very large employer, said that skills like communication, insight about other people, empathetic leadership, made for just as valued of an employer as a background in the hard skills. So in this case, a background in data science. So we want to make sure that we're giving our students and clients all the skills that are going to make sure they are successful in both transitioning into employment and then navigating as they transition through jobs and make their way through their careers. So on the next slide, you're going to be seeing 10 different skills. Now, when we created this library, we didn't develop a resource to teach the skills. We didn't develop a framework. We really focused more on bringing together a bunch of resources and making them fully user-friendly and accessible to you. But in our analysis of all the, at this point, hundreds of resources we looked at, these were kind of the top 10 skills that rose to the surface as being mentioned the most frequently in these resources. So these are the 10 skills that we want you to think about today as we go from kind of the bigger picture to what are the skills we're actually talking about. So think today, I know the day is still young, but think about what skills you've actually already used today. And it's probably been more than one, but you're going to pick one of these skills that you see on your screen, and you're going to think of an example of where you've actually already used it, or more than one, use them today. And we're going to have you enter your example into a Padlet. So Kathleen, if you want to open that Padlet, we'll show people what this looks like. And then in a second, I'll ask Stacy to put the link to the Padlet in so you can open that in your chat. But what you'll see here is the list of skills running horizontally. And Kathleen, if you want to go down to that space bar at the bottom, you'll have to navigate, all of you will have to do this, just move all the way to the right so that you can see all the skills. And you're going to add in your example. Let's say you choose self-management. You're going to click on that little plus sign right there, and add your example. You'll see, so we have used this activity before and we left a few examples in. So someone said maintaining a digital calendar, and Kathleen's writing her example into this. You can write right into the subject for this. And then when you're done, you hit that little publish button in the right-hand corner. So Kathleen's showing you exactly how to do that. Used my calendar to get. So that's what you're going to do to come up with an example of the skill. So Stacy, if you want to pop that Padlet link into the chat, then everyone can open that up, and you're not going anywhere. You're just going to open that on a new tab so that you can easily toggle back to the Teams meeting.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to open
and then
that.
you're going to click publish, Danny, right? So once you write in your example, then you're going to click on publish, and then
Excellent.
There it is.
Excellent. So take a minute to open up that link in your chat, come in here and add your example. You can just add one. If you have more than one, you can add two, but just choose one of the skills and click the plus sign to add your example. And then we'll wait a minute. So I see people, I see 4 or 5 people entering and writing. You can see these little dots on the top of the Padlet. And then in a minute or so, Kathleen will refresh and we'll see all your examples added here. Do let us know if you have any questions or if you can't access anything. Great, I see some examples being added. Checked in with my leadership team to kick off weekly priorities. So that's under communication. So thank you for adding that. And then for navigating and using information, I use data to make decisions about designing programs. Thank you.
So it seems like we're able to see them without refreshing the screen, or should I also do that? Maybe we're missing some.
Yeah, refresh, but I think we are seeing them pop in, which is nice. Okay, let's scroll down a little bit.
Completed timesheet this morning.
Right.
Ah.
I had to speak with the police this morning because the alarm was going off. So that's definitely a communication skill, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I hate when that happens.
So do I. It was me.
That's awful. It's so scary. even though you've set it off yourself, it's still scary.
And then someone's using digital literacy using features in Microsoft Teams. Exactly. So we're all flexing some digital literacy muscles this morning, especially Kathleen and I, because we're hailing from a Zoom organization. So we're flexing our digital literacy muscles.
And in teamwork, there's someone there that collaborated with team to develop monitoring tools. Great.
Nice.
Oh, I see some nice ones. And flexibility, Danny.
Adaptability and assisted with student testing. New students, yep, that are starting our program today. Yeah, so definitely requires adaptability and flexibility.
Relocated at the drop of the hat when my office needed repairs.
Wow.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, right. I think we've all had our adaptability skills kind of tested in the past few years.
Absolutely. Yeah,
there's
changing at the drop of the hat.
Communicated across departments when a student had a question about CASAS that her teacher at her site was not able to answer. However, with technology and teamwork, we were able to get her the answer in minutes. Oh, another one.
These are great. So what we'll encourage you to do is at this point, feel free to add another example if you'd like, but more importantly, scroll through so you can look at your peers as examples. The point here is that and this is not a surprise to you, but we all use these skills all the time. And it's not just our students we're talking about, it's all of us that both benefit from having these skills and benefit from developing and learning them more. They are pervasive, they are often overlapping. We don't just use one at a time, we have to often use many skills. And you know what Kathleen and I really wanted to do with this library and with the work that we're doing with programs is call attention to these skills and be much more explicit and intentional about these skills to really create more awareness and success for our students. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. And you will have access to this Padlet ongoing, but you know, to transition into actually sharing the library and to add on to why we developed it. You know, the good news about these skills is that there's no age cutoff in terms of when we can or cannot develop the skills. So it's never too late to learn the skills. And because we work with a wide range of ages, that's really important to remember. This is not just something you're born with or not born with, even though some of these are called non-cognitive skills. They are all attainable. They are all something that you can build with students and clients. And even though, you know, our target audience is workforce development, adult education, and community college, by no means does that suggest that they are the students and clients we work with in these institutions are the only people in need of these skills. So we want to make it clear that everybody at every level in the labor market needs these skills in order to be successful. So our goal really is to ensure that the adults and the older youth that we work with who face systemic barriers to education and employment have the opportunities to develop these skills in ways that are beneficial and meaningful to them. So we know that many practitioners working, you know, directors, advisors, coaches, teachers are already teaching these skills to some degree. We know that. And you are maybe in this session because you already have some focus on the skills and you want to increase it, or you don't have a focus and you want to add it. But without a lot of high quality resources, it's hard to be really intentional and explicit about the skills. So that's why we developed this library, was to ensure that everyone had access to the assessments, the lesson plans, the frameworks, the curricula to actually integrate and build in these skills. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen to show you the library.
Yeah, so just a tiny bit more about the library. So what it is we've curated all of these resources. So Danny has talked about how we've been working together with Sandy Goodman. And so the library itself now has over 200 resources in it. And as Danny also said, so the resources can be for adult educators, workforce development, community college, CTE practitioners. So next, I'm going to give you a tour, and in this tour, I'm going to show you how you can use the library yourself, and everyone gets quite excited about it. So I hope you will too. Okay, so here we are. You can see the screen. Is this okay, Danny?
Yes, looks good.
Okay, great. Okay, so the library, the URL, I should have pointed that out on the last slide. I think we are putting it into the chat for you, but it's skills.worldad.org. So in order to view the library or see all of the resources, you click here, view library. And there are 3 ways that you can search. So one is you just click on view the library, and you have all of the search results come up, and you can see there's many pages of these. So this may not be, you know, the best way to see the library without any filters. So we developed a filtering system here. And each one, it was really developed with you in mind, you the user. So under type of resource, there's advising and coaching tools, assessment tools, credentialing and badging, instructional materials. You can see that's sort of the largest area. Program development and design. There's some research in here, some great things to read, and skills frameworks. So you could start there. And then we have a format option. So are you looking for audio, video? Are you looking to download and print, etc.? Now, I mean, many of us are still teaching online, so maybe that's where you want to focus. We have a cost area because we know that, you know, in adult education, right, we don't always have all of the funds we need. So many of them are free. And many of the ones that will say payment required actually will have, you know, a free kind of resource, maybe a partial resource available to you, and maybe the bigger resource is behind a paywall. Here, we selected these 5 different audiences. And you'll see that English language learners is sort of the fewest number of resources for them, but we feel that many of these resources, you know, with some work could be adapted for English language learners. Okay, so that's how you use the filters. And we recommend probably that maybe, you know, you might not find what you need if you use every last filter. Sometimes I'll just use like 2. So, but you can go ahead and give that a try when you have a chance. Today, we're going to be using the keyword search filter. So in here, you could put, you know, what it is you're looking to teach. You could put the name of a resource that you're looking for, an existing resource that you know about, or maybe you saw it in here one day and now you can't find it again. So you could put the name right in there. So today, for an example, I am going to put a skill in here, flexibility. This is jumping around. Okay. And then I hit go. And you'll see I come up with 7 pages of results. So from here, I want to show you this part of the library. So I'm going to choose Indigo. Does anyone know this resource? It's a great resource. So what we've done is describe, so you're still within what we've done. So to get to the resource itself, to get to their website, you're going to click here. But what we've done here for you is to give you the name of the company, a brief description of the resource, and then here what you can find is what is it that you're going to find when you click on this link. So here are the skills that are addressed by this resource, and then these are the different components that you'll find. So in this resource, Indigo, you're going to find an assessment, online course, their Indigo Discover platform, a video career library, professional development, etc. And so this will help you to know what to look for as you go in and look at the website, because we all know websites can be difficult to explore. This next section here in the key takeaway section, we wanted for you to be able to search sort of beyond what we've given you in the filters, and for you as an educator and as a coach to think about what it is you might be looking for. So we're asking questions like we've answered questions like, who might this be designed for? But who else might it work with? Maybe it's designed for adult basic education students, but it also works with English language learners. So there's all, how else could you use it? So here we give some advice for coaches, career counselors, and advisors. How might they use it? And then in the background section, we just tell you a little bit about the company and the resource. So it gives you some, evidence of whether or not this is a credible. I mean, we go to great lengths to make sure that it is a good resource, but you can see for yourself in that section. So this is the view the library section. Now to get back to the main library, I'm going to click here over on the left in personal workplace success skills and our logo there. And now I wanted to show you one more section, the voices from the field section. And this is our case examples page. So where you can learn how practitioners are using the library in education and workforce development programs. So if you click here to learn more, you'll see all of the individual case studies, and they're all linked to the resources that these programs used. So we think that the Voices from the Field section is going to be a great way for programs to look at the library and think about how they might use a resource. And we will be also delving into this in more depth this afternoon. But for today, you're going to be focusing more on here on the keyword search element of the filters. Danny, was there anything else you wanted to add about the library?
I think that's good. We're going to focus more in the afternoon, as Kathleen mentioned, on what we've learned from working with these 14 programs that we've worked with so far so that you can benefit from that. But really within these two sessions that we're doing with you this morning and this afternoon, we're trying to kind of give you the benefit of this kind of 4-month consultation that we've done with these 14 programs within a 2-hour time frame so that you can both use the library and hopefully identify a resource that's going to meet your very unique needs. So Kathleen, I think that was a great tour of the library, and people will explore on their own in a few minutes here. So you can always ask us questions while you explore on your own.
Okay, so now Danny is going to guide you through the activity.
Great. So as I mentioned, we have been working with programs, probably a lot like yours, across the country for the past 1.5 to 2 years, and doing a consultation to help them find a resource for them and then helping them to implement and kind of guiding them through that process. What you see on your screen is 3 scenarios that reflect 3 programs that we work with. What we're asking you to do right now is to read these 3 scenarios and choose the one that's going to be most like your own scenario. So which one is most like what you would be looking for in your professional workplace capacity? So what would your program need? So take a minute and we'll be silent for just a minute as you choose number 1, number 2, or number 3. Once you have your choice of number 1, number 2, number 3, just throw that into the chat and then we'll know that you've done reading and you've selected your scenario. So I'll look for some responses in the chat and then we'll know we can move on. All right, so if somebody choosing, it's hard to choose. We have a 3, we have a number 1. Yeah, I'd say just choose one. Okay, great. You got number 2. Great, number 1. All right, so we have some people that have been able to read, been able to select. And so this is really now your chance to go into the library yourself and explore. When I go to professional development like this, I always have the best of intentions of going and exploring that resource afterwards. And I can't say that I always do it because life gets in the way. So this is actually your chance to look at the resource while you're here with us. So take advantage of it. So have your resource in mind, and don't worry, we're gonna bring that back up onto the screen in a second. But Kathleen, if you want to move to the next slide, you are going to look specifically at 3 resources in the library. So there's well over 100. I think there's well over 150, and that can be overwhelming. So what we want you to do is just look at these 3 resources, and based on what we wrote in that page that Kathleen just showed you, that write-up that we had, which one is going to be the best fit for your resource. So this is kind of a mix and match game. So if you chose scenario number 1, you're going to look at skill base, you're going to look at 21st century skills curriculum, and you're going to look at Road Trip Nation. Read that description and try to decide based on what I know about my scenario, which one's going to be the best fit for me. This activity is really intending to give you a range, a sense of the range of the resources in the library so that you can see there's kind of something there for everybody. So you're going to do this activity just on your own. We're all going to stay in this meeting. You're just going to open a separate browser like you did with Padlet. And while you're doing that, please feel free to ask us any questions. You can come back into the Teams meeting and put something into chat, or you can even unmute if you'd like to. But thank you so much, Stacy, for adding the link to the library. That's really all you're going to need. Once you're in that library, you will use the keyword search box to search for these 3 resources. So you'll type in skill base, 21st century skills curriculum, and then when you're done looking at that, Road Trip Nation. So you'll just use that keyword search box for those 3 resources. And Kathleen, if you move on to the next slide, what you'll see here is what we're going to leave up on the screen. This is going to be a helpful reminder for you of what your scenario is as you're navigating those 3 resources. So please feel free to ask us any questions, but if you don't have any questions, open that URL that Stacy just added to the chat, open that up and start browsing. And when you come back at about 10 minutes from now, we'll just call you back. You'll tell us which one you chose. And I see someone has raised their hand, and I want to say, Nedra, go ahead and unmute and ask your question if you want to. Can I unmute you?
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
You said we can select one. If we were going to do the skill base, we can research that from the link that Stacy provided.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can throw that specific link into the chat if helpful. So Stacy, if you want to add those 3 links, we can add those 3 links, but you can also use that keyword search box and just type in skill base, and then you can look that up.
Okay, thank you.
And then I see a question in the chat to confirm we are browsing the first 2 sites to determine which website would be most useful, and afterwards, and I lost the rest of that. But to answer your question, you don't actually have to go out of the library. All the information you need is just going to be in our written description, and you'll be able to find the best fit for your scenario based on what's written in that description. If you want to open the URL and actually go to Skillbase, for example, feel free, but you won't need to for this activity. But yes, you are going to look at all 3 of those resources: Skillbase, 21st century, and Stacy added those 3 links to the chat. Those are just 3 library links.
So should we ask people to complete by about 10:50?
Exactly. Yeah. So we want you to have about 10 minutes to do this. So nobody's going anywhere, but yes, if you want to be browsing in the library for about 9 minutes now, then we will reconvene and ask for some share outs at 10:50. And Charlotte, to your question, if we chose number 2, you're gonna go into the library. Everybody's gonna go into the library. You're gonna look at 3 resources, Charlotte, and you're going to figure out which one is the best fit for scenario number 2. I hope that answered your question, but if not, Charlotte, feel free to unmute and I can address that. If you are very fast and you've already found which resource you would choose for your scenario, feel free to just browse around the rest of the library using some of the filters to see what else is there.
And Danny, you see Beth's question, right? I think you're replying in chat.
Yes, I do see it. I'm going to reply in chat. And then I also would like to address it when we come back together as a group.
Perfect.
So thank you for those who are adding some of their answers. If you want to also type that in again and just tell us which scenario you had. So for example, Erica, you would say skill-based and then just add what scenario you had as well. And retype that into the chat. And we have about 2 minutes, then we'll come back together to hear a little bit about your experience. Excellent. And I love that some of you have explored beyond the 3 resources and found other resources that will fit your needs for your scenario. That's excellent. We were hoping you would get curious and explore beyond just these 3. These are great. All right, well, my clock is ticking towards 10:50, although I have to say my computer, my phone, and my stove all have different times, so who really knows? But I would love to get some reactions. If you're back on the Teams app with us, can you do a thumbs raise, or if you only have hand raised, just so that we can see who's back with us and not on the library still, so we can all come back on the same page. Great, thank you, Janine. Janine, and I'm sure that other people are great. Okay. All right, so I'd love to hear a little bit from someone who had scenario 1. So we had, at least I see in the chat, if people want to say which resource you chose and which scenario you chose, just throw that into chat right now. And we'll hear one person from each scenario tell us what resource you found and why. So for scenario 1, to someone who had scenario 1, could you raise your hand if you'd like to share which resource you chose and why you chose it? So I see Troy has a hand raised. Troy, do you want to unmute and tell us which resource you chose and why?
Sure, I chose, well, I had scenario 1, and I chose 21st century skills curriculum because I noticed they had digital badging. And what I'm observing about a lot of my students, they like to see that certificate when they complete something. They like to feel like they've accomplished something, and I think that actually works very well for them.
That's great, Troy. We also have found that in our experience that those badges can go a long way for students in terms of a sense of accomplishment and also the ability to share that with employers on a LinkedIn profile or even a resume, and that it does give them a lot of confidence, perhaps. So thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure.
So someone who had scenario number 2. Oh, Tara, did you have scenario number 1? Do you want to share about that? I see your hand is raised. Feel free to unmute and go ahead.
Oh, no, it was raised from you just telling me to be back.
Okay. Okay. So those who had scenario number 2, can one of you who chose scenario number 2 raise your hand and let us know which resource you chose and why? Isaiah, go ahead.
I chose scenario number 2, and I did the skills matcher. I actually wrote it in the comment. I think it's just very important that in this day and age, people are having like a mind shift, and they're trying to find themselves when it comes to a career, right? Some people are changing careers, some people want to excel in their career. But before they do that, they need to know what their passion and what their real skill set is, right? And as an adult, I feel like that's very important because sometimes you go through life and you might think you're an accountant, but another metric might say, hey, no, you need to be a career coach, right? So, and then you're like, wait, that is my passion, right? And most people, stay within their career if it's their passion. And when you're dealing with adults, autonomy is very, very important. And individual work and, you know, them working on their own skills and understanding who they are, their baseline is very, very important.
Isaiah, you bring up so many good points. And one of them is something we're actually going to talk about in Wednesday's session, but both helping students to know their passion and their interest, as well as the skills that they already have. So those transferable skills. So that's like a self-exploration piece, to know your passion, as well as what you can move into a new job, what skills you have, what skills you might need. So
Correct.
Skills Matcher, I'm so glad that you went off script and kind of found that one, because it's a great resource for finding transferable skills that people can have. So thank you so much.
Thank you. No problem.
Scenario number 3 is someone who had scenario number 3 want to raise their hand and tell us what you chose and why. Did anybody choose scenario number 3? Let me go back to the chat and see. I know there was a lot of, okay, Erica, you want to go ahead and share?
Yeah, I had scenario 3 and I chose skill base, just because it talked about being appropriate for, people who can self-direct in terms of having both kind of language and digital navigation skills. So it seemed like a good match for that level.
Yeah, and Erica, does that kind of reflect the student base that you work with?
I am only 2 weeks in to this position, so my sense with the students I've met so far is that some of them fit in that profile. Yes.
Great. Yeah, and I think that's probably the reality of many programs is that you have a range of students, some of them that can be self-directed and have the digital literacy skills for something like skill base, where they can work on their own. And this makes me think of Beth's question. So, when we were designing this resource, we were thinking this is something that teachers, programs, coordinators come into the library and find a resource that they can use. However, many of the resources have a component that students can access on their own, create their own account. So for example, Learn to Earn is a resource where students, I don't know if they create an account, but they go in on their own and they complete a series of modules, and then they get a badge when they completed that they can add to their profile. And that's an example of that teacher knowing that their students have the digital literacy and the self-directed skills to be able to do those lessons on their own. But even if they didn't, it could be a matter of the teacher deciding they want to do a lot of scaffolding and pre-teaching just to make sure students can complete the online modules. So it's a mix, Beth, to answer your question. We really have a mix. Some are just lesson plans and curriculum that the teacher accesses or the program accesses, and there isn't a self-directed piece for students. And let's see. Okay, so we had scenario number 1, 2, and 3. Does anybody else who had any of the scenarios, or maybe you found a different resource than what we shared in these 3? Anyone else want to raise your hand and share something that you found that you would use? I see some people, I see that Charlotte found work integrated learning, which is an excellent resource. And I think specifically, Charlotte, you were calling out succeeding in the work, in the world of work, and also Skill Up, I think. And we had somebody that chose Road Trip
Yes.
Nation. Oh yeah, do you want to add anything to that, Charlotte?
No, I just like, as I was skimming through, I like those 3 because it really seems like there's a lot of information that they can gain around job search, career exploration, and because not only I think students and adults tend to flip-flop sometimes because they're not sure, and especially if they are just entering the labor market, or they've been out of the labor market for any length of time to determine if they have transferable skills, what those are, the strengths of those, and if they don't, how to develop new skills that would be applicable for a particular job or career that they may want to be exploring or enter.
Exactly. Exactly. We couldn't agree more. I think that's why we put these resources together, that you can both find out what skills you have and then find out what skills you need to access the job you want for the high quality, well-paying job, and then build those skills. So thank you so much, Charlotte. And Kathleen, I think we can, in our 2 remaining minutes, move on to our final 2 slides.
We're all set with this.
Yeah, so this one, if anyone wants to put in any reflections about the library in general, 1 word to describe how you're feeling about it, you can just throw that into the chat right now. And I have to say that overwhelmed is a fair word to add to the chat if that's what you're feeling. There's a lot in there. But thank you. I see optimistic, excited. These are great. Thank you. And we will move on to the next slide just to share a little bit about what we'll do in the afternoon.
Yeah, so we hope that you'll join us this afternoon at 2 for part 2. So really this first session was sort of, to get you acquainted with the library, get you in there and using it. But we'd love for you to join us to take the next step, to learn more about teaching the skills using an integrated approach, a programmatic approach. And also, if you would like, if you have time between now and then, if you find the teaching the skills section of the library, the link is here. Does someone want to put that link into the chat? I'm not sure that we.
Yeah, sure. I'll put that.
Okay. In. Yeah. So that is a really great section that I did not write. I think maybe Danny had a hand in that, but gives you a good background as you approach the afternoon session, but you absolutely do not have to read that in order to attend the afternoon session. But again, it's all about teaching the skills and the experience that we had with the programs in the Voices from the Field case studies. And here we are. This is again the library link. You can contact us if you have any questions. There's Danny's email, my email. And also you can find us on LinkedIn. We have a pretty good presence there and might help you to, if we kind of highlight different resources a couple of times a week. And now I think that our hosts were wanting to add in a survey. Is that correct?
Yeah, they did. Tracy added it to the chat. So we'll encourage everyone to open that up and complete it. And we'll turn it over to you, Stacy, Tracy, or Dr. Bruce. If you have any final word, we are all done.
Yes, thank you so much, Danny and Kathleen. We're so happy to have had you. Please come back at 2 o'clock today. We would love to have you come back and share these insights and continue to delve further into the library. Please do reply to the link for the SurveyMonkey chat that Tracy Richard just shared. We really want your feedback so that we can continue to design mini professional development institutes that are relevant to you and to your work. And we'll see you at 2 o'clock. And we have shared the link to the Wakelet where the handouts for today are already posted. The recordings will be posted shortly, and where you can find the schedule of events with all of the links and all of the workshop descriptions for the rest of our exciting institute this week. Thank you all so much.